Hi, my name's Cordy, and that's roughly how I play Summertime when it's raining outside. If you weren't aware, I break down some sort of jazz stuff most Sundays for my Patreon people. Thank you for everyone who supports me on there, it does really help. And I'm hoping that this sort of stuff is useful. I was asked about Summertime specifically. So Summertime is a George Gershwin tune from 1935, I've just read. And I think the person who was asking about it was looking for maybe like a clean version of the tune where the melody wasn't necessarily particularly embellished upon. So there's an Ella Fitzgerald version which I think he had listened to, but Ella does tend to take quite a few liberties with a melody. So I guess this is like a basic tip in general. Any people that are trying to learn a jazz standard, it's worth kind of digging out the versions that aren't too out there. You know, like there might be a Sarah Vaughan version which would probably be even more out there. Or you know, there might be, you know, versions from the 70s or 60s and like crazy free jazz styles. So I guess if you're trying to learn a jazz standard, it does make sense to try and go back to a version which is not too out there. So Peggy Lee, Chet Baker and Frank Sinatra are sort of three people that I would use quite often, and they have quite a large back catalogue of stuff and tunes that they've done. So for instance, Summertime, there's a Peggy Lee version, there's a Chet Baker version. I've not checked if there's a Frank Sinatra one, but if I was looking to learn the melody of Summertime, that would be a place that I would look. So I would listen to the version that I'm trying to learn quite a lot. It might be a Chet Baker or Peggy Lee version of the tune, or whatever standard I'm learning. And what I'll be doing is trying to play along with that melody. Is basically my interpretation of what that Summertime melody goes like. So that's kind of the first step to learning any standard. You might also choose to learn the lyrics if you've got those to hand, or you know, if it's a version with lyrics, and that helps, I think, to kind of internalize what that melody should be and how it should sound. And basically what I'm trying to do is create like a memory of the tune in the back of my head, which is sort of playing as I play the tune, is the way I like to think about it. So that's step one. Then I'll put together like a step two, which would be figuring out what the chords are. So potentially I'm listening to the melody, or potentially I'm just listening to the chords, but So I'm listening for, you know, the basic flavour, or well, first of all I'm listening to what the bass note might be. Then I'm listening to whether it's a minor or a major style chord. And you know, you can pick up clues along the way if you figure out that it's in D minor, the version that I'm playing. Then you can figure out that kind of stuff. And then, so step 2, you're working out what the harmony of the tune actually is. And then step 3 for me is trying to play the melody but also hang some chords off of that. So the more you do this, and perhaps if you look at like my workings for this stuff, you'll see that there's kind of go-to chords and stuff that I would use. There are people that might be more systematic about this and might talk about like drop 2 chords and stuff. My personal feeling is that kind of any actual chord shape is fine as long as I can actually grab it. And if it's too unusual and it's going to throw the melody off, then to be honest, I'm probably not going to work too hard on getting that into the thing, as I like to have this feeling of spontaneity as I'm playing a tune. So those are the 3 kind of steps. So what am I actually doing for the tune? So here's the melody. And that's the kind of chordal accompaniment that I'd put with it. So for that we've just got these kind of D minor with a natural 6, so a D, a B, an F, and then an E, a C sharp, and a G. So kind of like D minor 6 and E minor 6, which come from our diatonic to D melodic minor, so that's sort of home for us. And then for this we're going to need to come to a G minor, which is why I approach that G minor from a D7, so implying like the dominant of the G minor. And so that part was, so we're just doing like a G minor. So with the D7, just a simple G minor. And then either an E7, E minor 7 flat 9, E minor 7 flat 5, or a B major 7. I'll play either of those 2 chords kind of interchangeably in this tune, and then resolve down to an A7 of some form. Maybe it'd be altered, maybe it wouldn't. And then same again for the next part. And then we're going to move into the relative major with a C7, and then B flat, and then A altered, and then D minor. So I approach this tune in a fairly simple way. I can write out that chord melody and include it, but that's how I would approach that tune. And also, if you want that kind of worksheet that I would work off for that with some of those voicings in it, that will be on my Patreon. And I'm just going to put at the end of this video now some of the clips of me kind of practicing it. So when I practice a tune, much like the accompaniment you heard at the start of the video when I was playing, I like to keep things fairly simple. So either I'm mostly responsible for the rhythm or for the harmony. I don't like to have too much harmony or too much rhythm in a thing. So I might play with a looper with just a bass line sometimes, or you know, like a brushes kit and just a bass line like I recorded at the start, or just a bit of chord accompaniment. So with a looper is kind of a good way to practice this stuff. But hopefully that answers some questions about how I might approach this tune. I think of it as basically a tune that's in the D melodic minor, and then you move away to this G minor and back. But I say we move away, when we hit that D7 we move away for a split second into the G minor, back to D melodic minor, and then very much arriving at F major, back to D melodic minor. So a relatively simple tune, and one that audiences will know, which again is one of the reasons that I picked it as one of my kind of top 3 tunes that you might want to learn if you're kind of getting into jazz. But yeah, as I say, it's important to try and find a version that is actually kind of relatively basic and faithful to the original melody. So Peggy Lee, Chet Baker, Frank Sinatra are kind of my go-to people for that stuff. So as I say, Patreon is a good place to get the tabs and stuff if you want to check those out and see the exact voicings and stuff that I tend to go for. And also the backing track will be up there. Hopefully that's helpful, and if it was, there's a buy me a coffee link just in case you wanted to support me with that. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you for another video soon. Cheers.